Weaponry in games is an underrated aspect of combat. We've basically got everything boiled down to guns, swords, or fists, with little room in between. Excellent action movies like John Wick incorporate the environment into their action scenes and make unconventional weapons out of everyday objects. So today, I'd like to take a look at some games that use everyday objects as weapons and how they incorporate mundane items into their combat systems to make something unique. Let's start with Alan Wake and its sequel. Now, this may be cheating, as you mostly use standard firearms to damage enemies in these games, but I'd like to look at how Alan Wake uses its unique flashlight mechanic. While the thematic light versus dark trope is kind of played out, what I like about Alan Wake is that it's not a magic flashlight that hurts these Lovecraftian nightmares. It's a way to balance the mundane with the fantastical. It adds to the absurdity that emanates from all Remedy games, benefiting their unique tone, where crazy, horrifying things happen in their titles, but it's always presented in such a uniform and toned-down environment, like a novel or an office building. In terms of gameplay, the flashlight is only something that works in a horror game, because in a shooter, when you put anything between the steps of seeing the enemy and shooting them, then there's a severe issue with your design philosophy and a crucial misunderstanding of your audience. But in horror games, it adds to the pressure of combat to add extra steps before you can eliminate an enemy. When combined with limited resources, this makes encounters tense and engaging. Although I'd say the flashlight mechanic is more prevalent in the original than its sequel. Because of the original's focus on set pieces and action, there are more enemies launched at you at once, meaning there are horde sections where you have to overcome a multitude of enemies, making the flashlight a much more stressful mechanic. The sequel's focus on survival horror means that fewer enemies will attack you at once. At the same time, you do have less ammo to balance this out. The flashlight mechanic is ironically less scary because you only have 5 enemies at most to deal with. Next is Undertale, and I'll admit this one is definitely cheating. In an RPG, it doesn't matter what the weapon is. It's essentially just a framing device for the weapon's stats. It can be anything. This is something Toby Fox realized, so when he was designing his quirky anti-RPG, he just made the weapons whatever he felt like, as he didn't have to animate any of them due to the peculiar art style of the game. Making the weapons something silly is in line with Undertale's wacky mood. The kooky characters that look like they're from the depths of DeviantArt are designed to be loose amalgamations of oddities, so using things like ballet shoes and a burnt pan to attack enemies fits so well with Undertale's quirk. This is in stark contrast to the genocide route, where the final weapon is a, quote, real knife. This is the game saying that there's no more jokes to be had. You peeled the comedy off this game like flesh from bone. It's done screwing around with wackiness. If you've decided to kill, then you're going to do it with a real weapon. Next is Bully. This is a game that required unconventional weaponry, as even in 2006, giving a high schooler a real handgun is a quick way to be banned in every country. And without guns or other standard video game weapons, this might be Rockstar's best combat to date. Note that I did not say best shooting, but Bully is a game that requires more planning than just hiding behind cover and spraying ammo. Jimmy can easily get overwhelmed by bigger kids, so using a creative arsenal is critical to success in this game. Now, with so many items across the game, I'm a bit disappointed at how many of them are just different kinds of stun. Stink bombs, marbles, itching powder, eggs. I love the variety of items, but there's just no point to that variety if they all serve the same purpose. The final game I wanted to talk about is Like a Dragon. When I praised action movies at the start of the video for incorporating the environment into their fight scenes, this is what I was building towards. Like a Dragon is the master of environmental combat. Quite literally, everything not nailed to the ground is a tool in the protagonist's arsenal, which can be used to epic or comedic effect. With just how, and I use the term lovingly, tacky Kamurocho streets are, with all kinds of weird knickknacks lying about on the ground, it makes for such a satisfying feeling to take these items littered around the streets and use them to knock some teeth in. I also love just how much you're encouraged to use these items. as the amount of damage you do to your opponent is ridiculous compared to your regular punches. Without a doubt, this is how Like a Dragon was meant to be played. But I'm scared that The Man Who Erased His Name will be the last time these interactives will be so compelling. In Like a Dragon 7, with its RPG nature, you are much better off just using one of your more powerful moves, so this iconic feature has lost its gameplay appeal, and it's just a waste of a turn to use once you get into the late game. I hope that Infinite Wealth amends this, even though it breaks the game's difficulty in half, because Ryuga Gotoku Studio is sacrificing the core identity of Like a Dragon in order to make it a more sensible game, and that's the one thing I don't want from this franchise.